to this talk, taking your open source tools, or taking these open source tools on your AWS adventure, and thank you, goodbye. That's all the slides we have, just so you know.
I worked on those.
We will not bore you with slides. First of all, this is a Friday crowd. Thank you all for devoting your Fridays to us. Woo, yeah, Fridays, yeah. I think we're good now. That's all I needed for today. Awesome. So today is, in all seriousness, a presentation I can go back to. There we go. We're going to be talking about some open source tools out there that will help you on your cloud adventure. So I'm going to switch into demo mode. And please bear with me. This is something not usually seen at reInvent. I'm overselling it. So you've woken up. You've realized cloud is the next thing, right? You've set up on your grand adventure to do cloudy things, to build, to scale, to fail, to open S3 buckets, to stumble with IAM, stumble with costs, and also realize that your laptop is not the cloud. So you woke up, but it is dangerous to go alone. What do? You need to exit your on-premises cave, let's call it that way, and you need to go out into the wide world of the cloud. Hello.
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 Who's that?
My name is Curtis Evans. I'm a principal developer advocate here at AWS. And as Darko alluded to earlier, I want to thank you guys so much for being here on a Friday. I know you've been here and had a long, adventure-packed, somewhat hectic week. Replay last night, I'm sure. But again, thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Curtis. And my name is Darko. I am what they call a developer advocate, but I used to be something we used to call a system administrator. Do you all remember that? I scream into the camera for a living, thanks to COVID. But I'm here now to talk to you about open source tools, command line, and everything in between to help make your cloud adventure better, safer, faster, and more fun. So let's sit in our cloud thing here, if I can hit this button. And let's take a ride. We're taking a ride over to your first cloud steps, right? You've started doing things, you started building code, you started provisioning EC2 instances, VPCs, users, policies, CloudFormation, CloudFront, API gateways, Lambda functions. A lot of moving things. What happens when you start creating a lot of things with a lot of important data? Those things can be problematic if somebody else wants to access them. So you need to secure them. But security is a problem. You need your shield. You need to protect your resources. Everything needs to be locked down. How many of you raise hands when you do some testing, when you start building? How many of you just use the completely open policy of whatever? Don't lie.
Ooh. A lot of hands.
chmod 777. We also used to do that, right? You just open everything to the world because security is hard. It is. You have to define exact things you need to do. You need to define, oh, my API call needs to do this. What is the IAM policy for that? Or I get a user yell at me, Darko, I can't do what I need to do. So how do you figure that out? How do you get your shield up and ready with relative ease? So we're going to talk to you about two open source tools to help you with that. And the first one is very special. Because there's a gentleman in the audience here, Ian McKay, who built this tool. And he came here to heckle me. So let me give you a scenario. You want to build a thing, right? You have your open policy, list bucket, launch instances, create users, request Route 53 domains. And your account admin works fine. But how can you actually understand or define what your IAM policy needs to look like for only a user to do only those things? There's always the documentation, but you know. There's a lot of documentation out there, and sometimes trying things out can be problematic. So IAMLive, am I pronouncing that right, Ian? Is it okay? IAMLive is a tool that will basically intercept API calls made from your laptop to the cloud and will generate an IAM policy for you. Let me show you. IAMLive, let me actually do this. Live, there's the set any. Boom. This is now running. If I open up another thing here, I'm opening up another pane here, and I do AWS S3 LS. That won't work. AWS S3 profile, default. We depend on so much on config here. Can I show config? I can show config, that's fine. Vim, so AWS config. What did I miss? What's the problem here?
Move your profile before the do AWS profile and then the rest of your command line.
What did I do?
Try that.
Oh, the profiles look good, right?
I think it might be the location of where it is.
Profile name?
Yeah. Make profile the second parameter on the command line.
Okay. Like this, -- profile.
Yes.
AWS BOA202 admin. Unable to parse config file. Unable to parse config file. Why won't they do it? It needs to be prefixed with profile. Well,
You have a duplicate line.
line 2 and 3. Ah, there you go. Okay. So let's try it again. Ha. Works. Beautiful.
You guys passed the test.
Yeah, there you go.
Congratulations.
That was intentional. But I'm trying to see why this doesn't work now. So AWS profile this ls. Ian, am I doing something wrong? Probably. So what's supposed to happen here, if I do IAMLive like this, and I run a command like this, the thing upstairs should generate a policy, but it doesn't. Well, that's a bummer. So this tool would intercept any API call made and just spit out a policy to do that for you. But for some reason, it doesn't work. I promised this worked on my laptop, but it doesn't work anymore. So let me try something. IAMLive, help. Set any, this would be, set any would update the thing. But there is an option that needs to do it. Like, it should be like just that. But maybe same profile. Okay, so if I do this, let's do this. IAMLive, I know why, thank you. IAMLive like this, then go back, and then just without the profile name, because by default, set any did it on the default profile. If I do this, now it doesn't work. chmod 777.
Good suggestion.
I have to set it again. So here's the thing, troubleshooting in real time. Boom, I'm live, set any. If I do set any, what it will do, it will add the thing to my config file, hopefully.
I think it's a single dash, not double dash.
Let me just see. It is CSM enabled true now, so that's what it done. If I do AWS S3 LS, boom, ha! There you go, you're welcome. So, that thing up there is a policy that gives you a permission to list the bucket. So if I do something else, AWS S, let's see, EC2 describe instances, you get another thing, right? What's another API call you want to run? What? KMS. What KMS? Let's do this. Check this out. Check this out. AWS, KMS. Can we describe something? Describe key. Key ID. Is there a key ID? Let's do this. Boom. There we go. It has added KMS list keys and describe keys. It has added those things in that policy. Now, if I want to add a policy, create a policy, I can just copy, paste that, and do it for my user. Now, most likely your users just don't use the CLI all the time, but this should intercept basically any call you try to make. So think about all of the things you would do, things your users would need to do. And it's relatively easy to create this single user policy to help you do that. IAMLive is just a blessing for these things because sometimes some calls require multiple permissions, which then require a lot of troubleshooting. So this is a great proactive way to create good, decent IAM policies for your users. But what about when you already have a policy in place and your user complains that they cannot do a thing? I will let my good buddy Curtis talk to you about the next security tool. We're still at security, right? Remember that. Next security tool to help do something else. So what is this tool and why do we use it?
Thanks, Darko. Thank you for being here as well, Ian. Is Noam Dohan in the house, by the way? I'm about to talk about his tool. Not in. Anyway,
He's not in.
Cool, no worries. So I'm going to talk to you guys about access undenied. To the point Darko just made, we've already got an open source tool that's going to give us the ability to understand what permissions that users, entities, what have you, are going to need in order to do things. Access denied is one of those tools that's going to give you an opportunity to discover just that. If there is an operation by way of an API that you want to run and the user is not allowed to do so by way of deny, this is an opportunity to parse that information, do some quick analysis, and be able to fix it on the fly. With the help of my trusted sysadmin here, Darko, let's create a situation where, say I'm a user, I've just been given access to an AWS account, and I want to do something simple like just go out and list buckets with an S3 API call.
You know
What do we have there?
We can do it now.
Sorry?
We can do it. We list the buckets.
Remove the profile, and let's try that.
We tested this out before.
We're going to go back and do a...
We forgot to remove the policy.
No worries.
So let's do it again. SIAM profile.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is basically reset the privileges for the BOA202 user so that they have no ability to go out and do a list of buckets.
Can I delete the policy version from the command line?
Just as easy.
Just S3 list bucket?
List policy.
List policy. Put role. No. So, smoke and mirrors. Imagine this user cannot access this bucket. There's an access denied. 404, 403 doesn't work for them.
Yep.
Right? And the user calls Curtis up, says, Curtis, my thing doesn't work. Figure it out. How do we figure it out?
So we're going to send that user to the administrator. We're going to have the administrator be aware of what the problem is. As you know, anytime you have an access denied issue that's going to be written to a CloudTrail trail event, with access undenied, the administrator is going to have the ability to do an analysis or run an analyze command by way of extracting that JSON data on that particular event and get some additional information about what the problem is and how they can go about resolving it. So with that, Darko, why don't we go ahead and we've already taken the JSON out of the CloudTrail event, and now we're going to use the access undenied utility to go and analyze it.
So we have a file here called file.json. This file is just a trace from CloudTrail, right? So if we do access undenied and pass it on an events file, file.json, if we do this, we could not find the reason for access undenied.
Are you running the profile that we needed for that one?
This, oh yes, profile, right? It is a profile. We're using the correct profile. Are we? I think actually this doesn't matter here because we are analyzing this locally, so it doesn't really
Well, you're going to have to be the admin user in order to be able to parse
the admin.
the.
So this is demo number 2. We have 2 more to go. I think I said people this is easy tools, right? Yeah, it most likely looks at the live profile. So what's happening right now? But it should analyze the file, no? Events file. Right? File. Yeah, it opens the file. Right, there we go. So that all works. File, JSON. Are we in the correct directory? We are. So there are no reasons for access denied. Well, the thing is, it's allowed, so that's why we need to figure out how to remove the policy. So are you going to figure out how to remove the policy for a user with us together? Yes. OK. Let's do this. Profile, BOA admin, IAM. How do we do remove? Remove role from instance profile. Remove, delete user permissions boundary. Can we do, I don't know. Detach role policy? We are actually adding put user policy. We're adding, literally adding a policy to a user, right? So you are doing this, and then username is BOA something.
202-user.
202-user, and then policy name is S3 list policy, and then we need to do a policy file, policy document file, and then policy JSON. Now this will add this thing to that document, but I don't know how to remove this thing. That's the problem. I'll delete the file. Yeah, I'm just gonna be. Actually, you know this policy.json. Deny. So when the user complains why they can't do it, it's because of you. So I'll do this. Is delete user policy?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that. Can we do profile, BOA202, IAM, delete user policy, username. Name, what is the user? BOA202 user, and then policy, name S3.
List policy.
List policy? Okay, let's try it again. Let's do this from the top. BOA user still works. We didn't delete the policy, but I do it. Like, wait, let me. Profile, admin, IAM, delete, user policy, username, BOA202, user policy. Yeah, so I think that would be great. But it should actually, this tool should show us this. Did I do this? BOA202 admin. User dash name, okay. That's consistency. 202 user.
Dash user.
Policy name. And you can see that it has a few policy. S3 list policy. Does this work? Yeah. No such user policy. There we go. So this user actually technically should be able to do this. Shouldn't be able to do this. Okay, beautiful. It cannot do it. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Okay, so let's try this access denied once again. Boom.
There we go.
See? Don't clap. You are endorsing our bad preparation. Do not clap.
Gotta love the ability to respond on the fly. So. Well done, Dark.
What is this now, Curtis?
All right, so we have now identified that there is a problem related to this user unable to go out and do something as simple as a list bucket. The administrator has taken the JSON entry from the CloudTrail event, used access undenied to analyze it, and now has the ability, by way of this output from the analysis, to say, simply go and do a list all my buckets permissions policy for this user.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
with that, we can go and now grant that user this access. Notice also too that, and Darko alluded at the very beginning, hopefully those hands that went up earlier about being S3 star users aren't, really into that, because you want to be able to always grant just principle of least privilege, which is what we're going to do here by way of a put policy for that user, granting those permissions.
BOA202 user. Okay.
Yeah,
Back to this thing
user with a
again.
U, not with a Y.
Policy name S3 list policy, and then policy document is going to be file policy JSON.
You edited that with a 9.
Yeah.
I
Good catch.
just changed it right now. As he was talking, I sneakily
You
changed it
did.
to allow.
Okay.
So if
Perfect.
we look at the policy now, it is allow. And do you think it will work right now?
Do a list bucket.
Do you think it will work? Hey, successful
man.
demo. Hey, hey. There we go.
So
Now-
that's access undenied in a nutshell. Know that you can also use this for organizations accounts where there may be issues with service control policies that are also creating issues. So take a look at access undenied.
Yeah, it's available on GitHub. It was made by somebody called Hermetic, but you know the actual name
Yeah,
of the
like I
person
said,
who did
we're
it.
proud to call him a member
Yeah.
of our AWS community builder. So thank
No
you,
one's
know him
done,
wherever
yeah.
you are.
So, I mean, how would you do this without this tool?
Oh boy,
Yeah.
Management Console.
Yeah, management. Did you ever have a user come to you and says, "Hey, my thing doesn't work," right? And that's a problem. So you can go through the management console, go to CloudTrail, and just scroll and just search deny. Okay, there's a deny here, and you look for it, and you add a policy, and then you find another deny. But is that the old deny or the new deny? You don't know. So access undenied definitely helps streamline this, so you don't have to worry about that as much. Okay, time to move on. We have, finally, our shield. We have figured out security, haven't we, in the last 20 minutes. Time to move on to the next part of your cloud adventure. And once you figure out security, you start building things in the cloud, right? You go and Lambda functions, S3 buckets, permissions, and you give people correct permissions, and they start building CloudFormation. I don't know, and the things start getting dark. The dark because you start to lose visibility on, you can build fast in the cloud, but it can also be quite expensive in the cloud, right? So you need to be able to manage your costs. Let's say, do people here use infrastructure as code? Terraform, CloudFormation, CDK, Pulumi, CF Engine, Bash scripts, right? So infrastructure as code helps you deploy things very, very fast. But they also help you make things expensive very, very fast. Have you ever asked yourself, gee, I wonder, this Terraform template I've written, and I spent days writing it, how much will that cost? Right? You can go to the AWS pricing page, look over the pricing page, and look, yeah, this is the cost of this EC2 instance. This is a cost of a file transfer. This is a cost of this NAT gateway. But it takes a lot of time. So I'm going to show you a way you can navigate yourself around costs for your infrastructure as code templates, in this case, Terraform, to figure out with some magic how much this will cost you, right? So let's go and talk about a tool called Infracost. Infracost is an open source-ish tool. So it is a tool that is open source, but there's some paid elements to it as well. I'm going to be talking solely about the open source part here. It is a tool that helps you take a CloudFormation template, CloudFormation, Terraform template, and analyze it for costs. What it does, it takes all the elements from a Terraform template and just bounces them off the pricing API. So if I show you something here, there's a main.tf file. Very simple. There's a single EC2 instance with 100 gig volume size, just the root volume size. There's a 1 terabyte secondary volume. There's an S3 bucket, and there's just a simple access control list for that bucket. How much does this cost? I do a lot of live streaming, and whenever I show something on the cloud, there's usually one person in the comments is like, how much does this cost? What if I host a website on AWS? How much is that per month? And that is a super valid reason, super valid question, right? So what I can do here is do Infracost, and just basically tell it, listen, check all of the files, all of the Terraform files I have here, and analyze them, and tell me how much will this cost me per month, if it works. It did. EC2 instance, $900 a month. Block storage, $10 a month. Bigger storage, 100 and a lot money a month. There's an S3 bucket, but it gives me, this is how much per gigabyte. So I get a total of $1,000 a month for this oversized web server, right? And in a single S3 bucket. This is amazing. It gives, like, if I had 100 EC2 instances, gateways, KMS keys, all the different elements of AWS, you would get all of that here. But wait, there's more. That S3 bucket, I don't like that. That is very vague, right? So what does this cost? Is the bucket free? How much is this thing? What you can actually do with Infracost is you can actually create something called a usage file. The usage file can individually attach to individual resources within your Terraform file, and you can define usage patterns. So if I say my bucket will have that many gigabytes, and this is how much monthly tier 1 requests and tier 2 requests. So this is some of the things, there's plenty more I can define here, and plenty different types of usage calculations you can have for different AWS resources. Creating this usage file helps me actually do one thing. So if I do Infracost and define a usage file, so it will take my Terraform template, slap on a usage file on it, and hopefully it will give me the actual usage of it. Now you see, how much will my bucket cost me with 10,000 gigabytes? How much will the transfer cost me? It's very much nicely broken down, so you can kind of estimate that it should not be too expensive, it should be relatively affordable or not. This is, when I first saw this, a lot of my fellow architects just, thank you. Because it helps you understand how much this costs. Because one of the biggest problems in the cloud is like, okay, so how much will this cost me? In the old days, I don't want to say good old days, but in the old days, you would buy a server, that's $100,000. That's how much it costs you. Add some electricity on it, and that's it. This helps you determine these things much, much better. But let's play around. So let's modify something. Vim, let's do change Infracost. Let's make some changes to it, right? Let's modify the instance type to, let's do Intel instead of Graviton, and let's change the volume type from 1 terabyte to 8 terabytes. And there is a way I need to figure out what my command for this thing is, because I don't memorize commands. You can actually output the run of this file, of Infracost, right? So instead of putting it out on the screen, I will output it to a JSON file, if I call it not JSOS, come on. Oh, JSOS. That's my new favorite file format, JSOS. Okay, so I'm outputting this thing right now. So if I go back and change my main.tf and go back to a Graviton instance, M6G, and change this back to 1 terabyte, save, and then run a diff. So there's a diff in Infracost. This should be that. Beautiful. So it will actually tell me how much cheaper would be me changing from 8 terabytes to 1 terabyte, and how much cheaper it is changing from Intel to Graviton, right? So you can do these things. And let's be honest, you're probably not going to do this on your laptop. You may when you're building, when you're testing stuff out, but once you advance into provisioning infrastructure through CI/CD, that's a pull request, right? On your GitHub actions, on your code pipelines, one of the actions before actually deploying a system would be to check how much does it cost. If somebody accidentally put a 16x large instead of a T2 micro, you want to see that on a pull request. That's how it works. It's a wonderful tool. You can play with it today. It has a free option. You can just grab a free API key for it. The thing it needs that because it's actually querying the AWS pricing API. So, and that's it. It's basically a brew install, and you also have to get the API key and log in with that API key. That's all. Wonderful tool. Helps you navigate those pesky costs, especially at the beginning. So let me grab my compass for navigation. All right, now, get back into the car, Darko. Now, let's go somewhere else. You figured out security, you figured out cost. Now it's time to build. It's time to test things out. It's time to go and build your Terraform files. It's time to do CLI unsuccessfully, like your presenter here. And you don't want to potentially do that on accounts. So let's talk about playing, building, trying things out locally on your wonderful, comfortable laptop here with a tool called
LocalStack.
LocalStack, yes, LocalStack. LocalStack is also an open source-ish tool. So Curtis, tell us what LocalStack is and why should we care about it?
Thanks, Darko. Well, first off, I can say that LocalStack, with regards to what we just did with our Infracost analyzer, is going to, I don't want to say throw it out of the window, but what LocalStack is going to do is by way of running in a local Docker container, you will give new builders, even experienced builders for that matter, an opportunity to go out by way of the LocalStack emulator and test what the creation of various resources are going to look like. I want to just pause so everybody can hear that. You're basically simulating how to build AWS resources in a local environment without actually running them within the account and incurring cost. I'm sure we've all run into that situation where, just out of curiosity, maybe we wanted to run that, I don't know, X1 instance, you generate the command line for it. It works great, but then someone's going to pay you a visit and ask you about this $100, $200, or $300 bill as a result of not turning it off. So want to just quickly show you what LocalStack looks like in terms of its ability to go out and, again, just do that. Use an emulator and simulate the running of AWS resources without actually incurring costs. So what Darko's going to do here is going to ensure that the LocalStack Docker is running.
So this thing's running localhost. It's running on my laptop. It's basically a container that will accept AWS API calls.
Perfect. So it looks like we're up and running. If we go to a command line, using the endpoint URL parameter and pointing to the LocalStack localhost, why don't we just go out there and do a EC2 describe instance?
What you see here is there's an endpoint URL. That's a parameter of the AWS CLI that you can actually, instead of it going default to the endpoint of the actual AWS CLI, it goes to a local endpoint.
And part of the beauty of that, by the way, is if you're looking to just kind of migrate between the two environments, simply remove that parameter and everything that you're learning and developing by way of LocalStack, you can immediately turn around and run it into the environment itself. As we see here, we have absolutely no EC2 instances running in this emulation of what's an AWS account. By way of another Terraform stack, now let's go out and see what it would look like if we were to simulate the launching of a number of EC2 instances. By the way, we're also going to be doing this. We'll give you a quick look at what the main TF file looks like here. I also want to indicate that we're using what's known as a TF local tool, which is basically going to allow a Terraform-like utility to interact with the LocalStack Docker image as well. Here we see in the defined Terraform, we want to go out and create 10 EC2 instances of that AMI type. So using the TF local tool, We'll go out and do an init.
Is this big enough? Should we make it bigger?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
That's
you.
good. Okay. Now let's run an apply.
We need to validate first. No.
Yeah.
Never do Terraform apply without doing anything else.
Boom. And just like that, we now see that the TF local utility is now communicating with the local stack and saying, okay, let's go out and now create ourselves a number of instances. And then if we go back and run that describe instance again, we could have shortened it for you in maybe an output format, but now we've got a number of EC2 instances that are running in the emulation environment. Again, really cool way for those new builders, those experienced builders that just want to make sure that they are have their Terraform built correctly. And then to the point I made a second ago, if they're ready to now deploy that into the actual account, they can just simply remove that endpoint URL parameter and be able to go and build very similar in their environment. The cool thing about local stack is it supports a variety of different AWS services. We're talking S3, we're talking EC2, RDS, DynamoDB. I could keep going forever. But just know, again, it's a great way for you to go out there and test the build of your environments without actually having to incur cost. Notice also that local stack has over 100 million Docker pulls, I think, to this date, which is a testament of just how much the community has learned to accept and embrace this tool.
A big note here. We didn't launch anything, right? There's no EC2 instances running. It is emulating that it's running. So you can test your Terraform templates that it will actually do something. You can test your CLI commands that it actually work instead of attempting it on a real stuff. So it is not actually launching anything. You can build on those instances, but the management process, the operations of launching instances, creating tables, S3 buckets, whatnot, you can actually test them locally in your laptop so they will work, and you just remove the endpoint URL and you run that on an actual account. Way faster to test things out, especially when it comes to launching a lot of resources with Terraform. So I think this, for testing, for playing around, will also help you with the cost thing, but it will help you do things way faster. So if you've not checked out Local Stack, definitely do. I mean, it's a little tool that can, again, it's free. There are some paid features of it, but for the most of us, free is enough.
Yeah. The enterprise versions will start to allow you to integrate more of your CI/CD processes and methods in it for just kind of full stack testing there.
Awesome. Now, let's go back to your cloud adventure. Now, we have come here and we finally have a book because we learned things, and we have a sword because we use the knowledge to go forth, right? We are ready to get off the train of open source tools and explore further, right? Now, you have handled costs, security, local development, but that's not all, right? As you go cross the river of despair, into your further cloud adventures, into trying new things out, new services, all the reinvent stuff, you will actually encounter plenty of more open source tools in the forest of open source. These are not the only open source tools for your AWS adventure. There are plenty more out there. And I'm going to just mention a few of them. The first and foremost, Former2, made by the same guy who made IAMLive. Ian did this tool. If you have trouble building infrastructure as code, you build everything through ClickOps, which is fair. I do ClickOps. What if there was a way you could export your bits of your architecture into a CloudFormation file, into a Terraform file? Former2 does that. It will basically read what's running within your AWS account and create infrastructure as code templates. Wonderful, wonderful things. I'm not going to show it. I'm just going to talk about it. Coming up, AWS LS. AWS LS is literally what it says on the tin. You list resources within AWS. So if I go back to here, I do believe I have it kind of ready. If you do, let me do this, AWS LS, you can actually list all of the resources, for example, AWS VPCs, in your default region, in your default account. You can go even more. AWS LS, you can do multiple accounts, multiple regions, if I just add a comma here. It will cover multiple regions. Have you ever lost a thing at AWS? Like, oh, I seem to have an EC2 instance running somewhere, but Amazon has like bajillion regions now. How can I find it? You can do this. Or, how many of you have more than one account? Exactly, right? So this also works for multiple accounts. So if you have like multiple profiles, I only have a single one. Maybe I can do default like that. It will go through multiple CLI profiles, multiple accounts basically, and it will run the same thing. It will throw those things out there. You will see the default profile and my BOA202 admin and the VPCs in the US East and EU West 1 regions. Super simple, but very useful when you're trying to find that thing that's costing you money. All right, back to the forest of open source. What else do we have? CloudMan, or Cloud Manager. It is a simple tool for all of the EC2 nerds out there. Who loves EC2? Hey,
There you go.
There's dozens of us. You can use CloudMan to basically manage EC2 instances. It's a command line tool because we all love command line. But you can do a couple of things here. Like you can start, stop, terminate, and you can also connect to an instance, right? If you have like SSM enabled. I'm not sure if I have SSM enabled on this instance, so we'll see. I don't. But if you have SSM enabled on that instance, you can actually connect it through Systems Manager. If you have serial connection enabled, you can connect through serial connection. So let me actually see, does that work? Does serial work on this one? I don't know. It works, beautiful. There we go. So, no, it doesn't. No, never mind. But if you have those things, you can do all of those things. You can connect to an instance, you can filter them, you can do a bunch of stuff with EC2. Wonderful, little, simple tool, but it helps. Now, what else? Where am I? I'm lost in the forest of open source. All right, oh yes. My favorite tool, AWS Nuke. Wonderful tool. If you ever build things without using infrastructure as code and you need to clean up after yourself, yes, this thing will nuke your account, delete everything within an account. It is wonderful because it helps you not incur cost, clean up after yourself, and we all had a long day of building, testing things, and you just leave your laptop and go home, and you come back, you're like, oh God, okay, what did I do yesterday? So AWS Nuke helps you clean on that, start with a fresh slate, wonderful. And finally, AWS Lambda Power Tools. If you build Lambda functions, if you use Lambda for Python and TypeScript, Power Tools are just an open source tool, utility that you can basically plug into your Lambda functions that will help you do things that are usually complicated rather easy. So tracing, metrics, logging, all of those things can literally be just plugged in with Lambda Power Tools. If you are not using Lambda Power Tools and you're a Lambda user, check them out. Trust me, you'll thank me in the morning. And finally, let's go here and let me ask you, what is your favorite open source tool? Who wants to say something? Don't be shy. Come on, scream it. Vim. Leap. What is Leap? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But this will do it with and
Amazing, amazing. So there's a lot of open source tools out there that can help you do what you do, right? These are just a tiny little sliver made by the amazing folks out there who do this, I don't want to say on their spare time, but some of them do it on the spare time. So make sure to support those people, make sure to check them out. If there's a pull request, make it better, improve it, add your own things, and also build your own open source tools. Before I wrap up, I want to ask, are there any questions we can answer within the next 5 minutes? Go ahead.